Alrighty. How's everybody doing today? Today I'm late getting here, but not because I'm late, but because of technical snafus where for some reason couldn't get my live stream to work in the way that it was designed to work, like live stream and show everything it's supposed to, and it was messed up. So started the stream at 12:28, and they immediately recognized that I had a problem. Stopped the stream, deleted whatever I started, and then I proceeded to try to fix the thing. Got the thing I thought fixed. Started another stream, and nope, still had a problem. Same problem, and then I stopped it again, and then this time around, finally it worked. So. Now, I don't know what to say about that. I'm very sorry that I'm late. I think it's terrible to be late in general, but I've done it. I've fallen, but I can get up. And in a way, this gets to some of the topic of what I want to talk about before the show begins, and that is the underlying. Well, I have a number of I would call core standards that I find what I believe are practical reasons to pursue. They've helped me in my pursuit of my own preferences. And one of those is simply stop or go. It's the stop or go standard in my life. It's It's what I use to remind myself of to take myself out of the vortex of the immediate, especially when the vortex of the immediate seems so overwhelming and helpless at times. So the idea is simply this. If you really boil it down, the only real, and this isn't even a guarantee, but to the to the degree to which you continue to have this, I'll say, demonstrated human capacity, you really only have two real free will choices in life. And I'm being a bit hyperbolic. I'm not necessarily saying that this is like absolutely true, but might be. Probably not, but I'm going to assume that it's true for now because it's worked. And making this assumption has worked so far. It's really helped keep me clear of basically being consumed by the type of vortexes even that I would create. I'm bipolar, so the stop or go principle is basically it emerged from my dealing with my own bipolar vortexes. But my bipolarism, such as it is I guess over the years gotten less and less, so it's not nearly a factor in my life. I don't know if it's just the conditioning or what, but it's certainly still somewhat of a factor. But what's been more of a factor in my life over the last 2 years has been my physical pain. And it has been my ability, such as I perceive it, my ability to deal with my bipolarism through this stop and go principle that maybe helped give me the chance that I had to deal with a period of time when I was dealing with incredible. I have to say that I have not had a significant high pain day in over 2 weeks. And I have been taking these supplements starting about 2 months ago. And I'm just, I've also been eating healthier, a lot more fruits, and eating things that I know have certain vitamins that I'm looking to get to build up my immune system. And I just, pain-wise, I can't really complain. Now, I've had other issues. I've had gastronomical issues, and I get migraines, and those migraines do weird things. And I really, when I have a migraine when I'm running a show, it is difficult. But I think I've been reasonably well with it. I think I've been able to handle it. I need to be able to do the show every day, come heck or high water, including when I have migraines. But in dealing with my bipolarism, one of the first roots was, is it fact or fiction, the emotion? Because bipolarism will produce, I guess what you could argue are fiction emotions. The body is sending you biochemical feedback to feel a certain way. And it's not based on your circumstance. It's based on some sort of some lack of communication, I'll just say. Parts of your internal self are not communicating with themselves efficiently. And so it produces emotions that are not based on your agency, so to speak. They're based on a flaw in how your body is giving you the messages that it thinks it needs to give you. And in knowing that and dealing with that, I had to go through a process when I get my incredible, in the beginning, I tried to control the highs, and I also to control the lows. The idea is you're supposed to level out, keep your emotions in check in general, high and low, and it helps self-regulate you. But I have found through the years that for me personally, don't do anything about the highs. Let them go. It's the lows that you need to manage for me, and I think that's really been, and the key thing is stop or go. You only have two choices, fundamentally, two choices in life. It's the stop or go. That's it. Whatever the circumstances, that's it. Do I decide to live and carry on with the plan, or do I just stop? For me, I have deduced in this process, it's a lot of, it's led me to stoicism in and of itself. But for me, I found that boiling it down to that reality makes me do the show today. Because today I don't feel like doing this show. I don't know even how I'm going to do. I might totally suck today, I'll tell you in advance. Because I'm highly emotional right now. I have reason to believe that significant people in my life may be turning away from me, people that I love. I've already had some turn away. So that's what Coronavilles has done to a lot of people. A lot of people have gone shell deep into their absolutarian ways, and they absolutely must believe that there are these angels and demons in the world, and you have to adhere to their strict orthodoxy to not be considered. And they'll let you know. They'll tell you you're on trial. They'll literally tell you, "I'm watching what you say." You can't have relationships, healthy relationships with people, but that's what Coronavilles is doing to a lot of people. And so I'm hurting. I don't really need a lot of human contact. I do very well by myself, but I do need human contact. And I have certain core people that are very, very important to me and have been for a while. These people that I kind of put into this, these people are willing to ride into uncertainty comfortably. And I only have a few left. And I've watched so many of them peel away. And I could go into a vortex regarding this, because this is very emotional for me. And nothing I can do about it. I'm powerless. Why do the show? Well, how many people I think I'm going to reach? I get 3 or 4 views on a good day. Why? Well, it's real simple. And I'm not asking for a pity party, because I don't pity myself at all. I don't, just so you know. And I'm not asking for sympathy or understanding. Well, maybe some degree of understanding. That wouldn't be bad. But no sympathy or anything. Because every single one of us right now is going through our own cataclysms. Everything is being laid bare. I wrote a poem in the beginning of this called "The Virus is a Light," and that's exactly what it's doing. I said, if you, what it's really showing, a lot of people, like even for me, a lot of places that I had like houses of peace. If you have a house of peace, Coronaville will confirm your house of peace. And if you have a house of war, it'll bring that out. And for me, apparently there were more houses of wars than I thought. I thought I had houses of peace. I thought I had people who could ride with me into dangerous worlds, especially when it comes to thought. And not never be tied down by any one rigor or any one moral code. Well, certainly, I'll say that, I'll clarify. I am actually tied down by one moral code. I am tied down by a Christian moral code, but I mean in terms of how do I interact with others who have not consensually come to that place of this. If you amongst Christian kind, I assume and I act as if we are operating on that moral code, and I will hold Christians accountable and ask them to do the same with me, as far as our Christian moral code is. But I wouldn't ever even want to assume to try to build a relationship with anyone in which I was even attempting to ask them to follow my Christian moral code. That's not part of our necessary exchange at all. I wouldn't want that, and I don't want that from others. Problem is, a lot of people want that now. So I've decided the show might never be seen by anyone, and I maybe but I'm not wasting my time, because my choice is I could do the show or I could sit here and do nothing. I could stop or I could go, and I have more fun doing the show than not doing the show, even if no one ever sees it. And my friends that I'm losing, I'll revisit that, I guess, when the show's over. But for now, it's showtime. And so, stop or go. I go. And for most of us, I think for many of us, if you hear this, you probably would appreciate just how comforting that is. The going in and of itself brings joy Today I will find joy. I have found joy every single day so far during Coronavilles. I have not had one day in which I did not. And some days I have to work hard to create the circumstance where I can experience joy. But it's very important that you do that. Very important that you allow your body to give you these. We're learning more and more. I've covered some of these stories, and I'll cover more. How it is that the emotions that you experience have a real impact on your physicality, short-term, mid-term, and long-term. And you have more power than you imagine to actually create the environments in which you can give yourself the types of biochemical, bioelectrical, whatever processes these things are, reward. A joy reward literally heals the body. And so you almost have to look at it as vitamins that you have to get in you. I do that. I do it religiously now, especially during Coronavilles, because it's more, I won't say more, actually more often than not, I'm able to experience joy very organically. I don't have to work at it. I have my joy. And, but there are more days way more days now than there has ever been. Well, no, I can't really say that because, during the height of my pain days, which lasted for about 3 months. 3 months that changed me. 3 months that was it was a religious experience. I can't explain it, but it was a horrifying, intense. I was in bed most of the time. I could do nothing. It's terrible, and I would say that was worse than this. Actually, much worse. I would rather have this than that any day. I'd rather face Coronavilles than that. Because that, you want to die. You do want to die when you go through something like that. And that's where having the stop or go was a big... I may not have been getting out of bed, but while I was in bed, I was digesting. I was receiving... I wasn't passive. I knew I had to keep going, and the only thing that I could do at that point was literally, for many times, I couldn't even read. So I listened to my audiobooks, but I was taking in information. I was listening to history, listening to philosophy. Really, mostly those two, pretty much, obsessively those two. I learned Karl Marx, Das Kapital, Volume 1 during that period of time. I did a lot. I took in a lot of data, and actually that level of stuff that I've taken in, I've continued even now. I've never been more productive as far as taking in data than I have in this period of time in my life. And it started then. And it's been intense. And it's because of that stop and go principle that a period of time when I literally or often prayed that I was never suicidal. I would never kill myself. But I would pray that I would die. More days than not, I would pray. It was horrible. But yet I kept working as much as where I could work, I worked. And the only place I could work was intake audiobook data. All right, so I've gone on a lot, but I don't really care. I don't really care that I went on a lot. We're going to get to the show, though, folks. We're going to get to the show. Got to stop or go, and we're going, ladies and gentlemen, we're going. So let's get ready. For all of those who might need this, let's prepare you.
Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is foreign. The minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we offend. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out. That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen, and I just want to let you guys know that I have gone 10 straight shows without freaking out. Now, I would say that the Vegas bettors, because eventually when I'm huge, and I will be the greatest podcast of all time. You'll see. It'll take me 3 months, but in 3 months I will be the greatest podcast. They'll be like, no one's ever seen anything like what I'm doing. It'll be like amazing. I'm just saying stuff. Say it, what was that called? That, no, what is it? Now I can't, say it and claim it or whatever it's called, that magnetism thing. By the way, I would never. I'm not in that camp. I do believe in, to a certain degree, in the power of that, but not in any kind of spiritual hooju booju sense, but in the sense that, and not in any guaranteed sense, but in the sense that you're building these heuristic institutions within you. That's what I call them, heuristic institutions within you that are developing a pattern that will more easily and readily find a type of data that will enable you to fulfill whatever you're name it and claim iting. So it can work. It has real power, but it's not magical Mr. Buju Buju. It's just building internal patterns of thought. So on that note, let's begin. Freako Talks the News. This is Freako.com. Not freaking about the news for you, the people, and just going on here, and didn't have these guys up. I forgot to put. I'm not used to doing this yet, so this whole process here where I'm letting you see. So here we got these are the sites, the aggregate news link sites. These are my sites. I go through about 1,200 or so. Maybe there's times maybe 2,000 at times, but we're maybe about 1,200 to 1,500 thereabout links a day, and I select. For my own personal preference and reasons, I select the type of stories that I would want to focus on these sites. So Newsalite is the glitz, the odd, the under the radar, the hard to believe news at a glance. Obamacare.tv, free market social engineering for the masses. This is where I track the billionaires and the corpo states, and they really are states. These massive empires, as Facebooks and Googles and Amazons and defense contractors, all these international megacorps. These are states in another. They should be treated as states, and that means that some of the stuff they're doing is a fundamental violation of our bills of rights. We got some issues here, man. We got some issues, but anyway. And then we got Pioneering News, the tech, science, underground news links, and I take 12 of the Freako's top Pioneering News links, 10 of Freako's Obamacare top news links, and 10 of the of Freako's Newsalite links, and they all end up in Freako.com. Now, today's a new thing. I am only selecting 12 from now on instead of 14, and the reason is because I've noticed when I get to the briefs, I would never get through. At most, I would get through is 4. So I said, I'm not going to select 6 briefs anymore. I'm just going to select 4. So that's a business decision that Freako made. I am Freako, and I'm also not Freako. So my real name is Paul Gordon Collier, but this is the persona that I am, and I am Freako. So I just want to make sure we all know when I'm speaking about Freako in the third person, that's when Mr. PG has stepped in and screw that guy. I'm Freako. You know what? No more of that guy. It's Freako the rest of the way. Freako the rest of the way. If you agree, type agree in the chat so that I know that you prefer me to be Freako and Paul Gordon Collier sucks. That guy. All right, let's get to it. The science of connection, the sex of power. Freako Talks the News for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Implants that change shape and density when needed. A ghost gun in every home. Thanks to science. Social media gonna have to pay the down unders newsers. The epic of Vagus, or the science of connection. Cytokines could kill the Coronavilles. The power advantage of landlord sex. There you go, man. There you go. Let's record our first segment now. And our first segment's going to be our talk headlines. So let's get to that. This is the talk headlines for Freako Talks the News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. The headlines here are, our top headline is, implants that change shape and density when needed. Excerpt from Science Daily. New bio-inspired material can shapeshift to external forces. Inspired by how human bone and colorful coral reefs adjust mineral deposits in response to their surrounding environments, Johns Hopkins researchers have created a self-adapting material that can change its stiffness in response to the applied force. This advancement can someday open the doors for materials that can self-reinforce to prepare for increased force or stop further damage. That is mega cool, right? I mean, I'm thinking that's pretty amazing and inspiring. And wow, I want the suit. I want the whole suit. I want the suit, and I've got my little AI little buddies built right into the suit. Got like maybe an army of AI buddies. I got like the suit itself is like equipped with like 300 AI buddies, all of them as powerful as any of the most powerful computer in the world. Like that's where we want to be. This is now I'm really fantasizing here, but we all have these suits with these AI buddies on, and everything only works because you have to go through a process where you have to actually sync with the AI using biometrics or some odd ways to key them in, so they're zoned in, but they have no access to control you. You control them, and they're not part of any external network. They're all within you built them in your own lab, so to speak. That's what we want. That is a world in which suddenly you have a leveling out as far as intellectual force power is concerned. A report of the findings was published today in Advanced Materials. Imagine a bone implant or a bridge that can self-reinforce where a high force is applied without inspection and maintenance. It will allow safer implants and bridges with minimal complication, cost, and downtime. See, they're there, and I'm already at like the suits. I want the suits. Says Sung Hoon Kang, an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Hopkins Extreme Material Institute and Institute for Nanobiotechnology. Oh gosh, that's a mouthful. At the Johns Hopkins University, and the study's senior author. While other researchers have attempted to create similar synthetic materials before, doing so has been challenging because such materials are difficult and expensive to create, or require active maintenance when they are created, and are limited in how much stress they can bear. Having materials with adaptable properties, like those of wood and bone, can provide safer structures, save money and resources, and reduce harmful environmental impact. And the suit. I want the suit. Can you guys just imagine a suit, and it's got your AI buddies, and they're kind of meshed into, you can access them. They would almost literally become an extension of your mind. But you're doing all the zooming. Although maybe, who knows, but let's pretend you're doing all the zooming. You're the zoomer, not the zoomee. That's always one of the great questions of the universe that we always come down to when we're looking at things. Who's zooming who? Who did who? What did what? Chicken or egg? Who's influencing who? There's always, well, not always, but almost always, you get down to the blood and bone base of what the action actually entails between the two, and you find that inevitably you get the who, zoom, and who question coming along. So I don't know. I'm still for it. I'm willing to dive in. If they gave me this suit, under all the conditions that I outlined, I get to create my AI buddies in a lab in a way that I am synced in, and I am like, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm willing to do it. I totally would do it. I'd have my AI buddies in my suit, just wearing my suit, which would be like super, like keep you basically the constant temperature that you want and all that stuff, and be self-cleaning, self-repairing. All you got to do is periods of time, you know, sometimes you got to plug it in, get some whatever resources that you would have to pump into the suit to keep it able to as it gets lower, you may have to add resources, but you would never have to take it off. It'd be like, it'll grow with you. It'll be this weird tradition. You want to get it on the babies as soon as possible, but the babies don't get the AIs. You don't get the AIs. You only get the protection of the suit. But when they get to be at some age, whenever you decide when they're ready to actually develop their own particular AIs, and I probably, with the assistance of our own AIs, we'd be able to really figure out uh, a, a pretty unique standard for the individual that we're dealing with. So some individuals, they might be 8, might be like 2 or 3 of them in the world. When they're 8, we're like, yep, you get your own AIs, buddy, or gal, or they, whatever. But for the vast majority, it might be maybe 16, 18, 21. I don't know what it would settle on, but then you have to create. You probably hit like in school. You might even create like little. You learn how to do this. You'd have to teach them this. Maybe you don't have school. I don't think you'd have school. You'd have more like community centers where kids of various ages gather together and they'll help each other and have adults there to provide some levels of supervision and facilitation. I think that basically the open school, unschool type of model eventually is going to prevail in a society such as this. Not in a society in which the AI is coming from one source, a society in which you're actually developing your own particular AIs, your custom AIs. If you could do that's the world you want, where everybody can do that. At least that's the way I see it. Type agree in the chat if you agree. The maybe not calculation of Coronavirus immunity. Excerpt from NDTV. Recovery from coronavirus may not confer. Oh, I said it. Sorry. Recovery from. By the way, I don't not say coronavirus because of anything to do with YouTube. It's just my thing. I like saying Coronavilles. I like making it all Coronavilles. That's the world I live in. That's the mythological world I'm building in my head, so I can remember this as an epic battle that I was involved in, and it'll give me that biofat feedback reward that I am somehow living in an apex existential heroic manner of existence. And so that would give me good fuel indeed. Recovery from Coronavirus may not confer immunity, warns experts. Even as virologists zero in on, I said warn experts, I meant to say, even as virologists zero in on the virus that causes Coronavirus, a very basic question remains unanswered. Do those who recover from the disease have immunity? There's no clear answer to this question. What a surprise. No clear answer. No clear answer to this question. Experts say, even if many have assumed that contracting the potentially deadly disease confers immunity, at least for a while, being immunized means that you have developed an immune response against the virus such as that you can repulse it, explains Eric Vivier, there we go, probably is Eric Vivier, a professor of immunology in the public hospital system in Marseille. Our immune system, remember, which normally prevents you from being infected by the same virus later on. I don't know why I made him Count Dracula, but it seemed to fit. I can't get the French accent out of this, but now this is it. This is the only accent that's being delivered. Now it's Arnold. Now he's become Arnold. Good job, Frico. For some viral diseases such as measles, overcoming the sickness confers immunity for life. But for RNA-based viruses such as Coronavilles, the scientific name for the bug that causes the Coronavilles, it takes about 3 weeks to build up a sufficient quantity of antibodies, and even then they may provide for only a few months, Vivier told AFP. So once again, it's just another. And you know, the thing about Coronavilles is the lack of clear data and the ease with which we can fit into our cognitive dissonances. There's plenty of data to support almost anything that you want to believe. And I, for one, I don't really know what degree Coronavirus is what people say it is. The degree to which the shutdown is justified. I'm not convinced that it is. However, I'm not convinced that it's not either. I wish I could be more certain. I really, really wish. And I've been kind of swimming in the, it's probably only 25% real. It's going to play out that way. And I still see conflicting data. I'm looking at the numbers, and then I'm thinking, I've been looking at the numbers, and then I've been thinking lately, well, just because the numbers are going down now, does that mean it's not a threat? I don't know. Here's this article. If we are not immune, then this is a problem we're going to be dealing with for a while. The one thing that I do take note of, now, as it so happens, because of what I have done for so long, like even when I'm not doing shows, when I haven't been doing shows, even when I wasn't running the websites, I was still using my system that I use. I designed my system that I use to gather news just for myself so that I could see what's going on in the world. I'm tracking stuff from world newspapers, and I get from weird sources. I have a variety of methodologies to gather my data. And because of that, I can say this particularly. I have definitely noticed a real spike in the number of celebrity deaths, especially overwhelmingly older celebrities. They're dropping all over the place. That to me, I don't know if it means anything, but to me that says this is not the flu. Because I have been tracking this. I've been doing this type of system maybe off and on, and much more on than off. I've been using this system for the past 4 or 5 years, and I can't. I don't know if 4 or 5 years is sufficient period of time to. And specifically, I've been tracking entertainment type news. I have my reasons. It's one of the leading indicators as to where our society is and what's going on. So that's why I track it. But now I track it for fun. I want to try find, and unfortunately, in Coronavilles time, I was really hoping for a lot more fun from Newsalight than we're getting. But I'm sure after Coronavilles, the fun in Newsalight, you'll see then more how Newsalight was intended to be. It can't be that until after Coronavilles, but. So that tells me that maybe this is more serious. So I'm once again, so often, I don't have the answer. I have not found certainty in the data. I find conflicting data. I find conflicting narratives. And the fact that the narratives are so predictable as far as what the left will say and what the right will say, I know immediately not to trust any of them and what they say. Not that I do trust any of them. I fundamentally don't. So I'm here just like almost all of us guessing, but because we can't accept the certainty, we can't live in the uncertainty, then we double down on whatever certain assumptions that we've made. You must believe that this virus is literally death, and sending anyone out into it is literally just wishing murder on everyone. That's what it becomes. Well, if I believed that the virus was as bad as that, I wouldn't be for anyone going anywhere. I would say, listen, we're all going to die if we go out there, but I do not believe that. And that part, actually, I really don't believe. What I do believe is this very well, it could be. I'm almost 50-50 as far as the degree to whether I think this crosses over to justify the shutdowns that have occurred and the damage that shutdowns have already caused. I'm not sure. I'm 50-50 at this point. And maybe I'm 49-51. I'm leaning towards the shutdown is not. Now, I have been, I guess, just recently I've been more 75% certain the shutdown is not. But then the celebrity deaths thing really has turned me back more towards, wait a second, I got to think about this. Because now, so the numbers that I'm seeing, they don't play out for me as far as this is this thing that's going to kill hundreds of thousands of people. It doesn't play out that way. But even when the numbers are concerned, I'm not sure what there's waves and waves and waves. So I don't know. And I don't know, because we fundamentally live in a land of liars and cheats and thieves and scoundrels and murderers and rapists and plunderers. We live in a land where narrative is king, and I'll say this over and over again. We live in a land where narrative is king. And you need the narrative. You need the narrative, because without the narrative, then you have to face the uncertainty, and you can't face the uncertainty. So you need the narrative. You need to believe. How can anyone not see this? Oh, you're just watching Fox News. Oh, you're getting right-wing talking points. Or the other side. You're just listening to Rachel Maddow. You're just a socialist. And that immediately then means I don't have to question the person that is giving me an opinion that's different than my own. It must be that this person has an evil intent for them to believe something that I don't believe. It must be. It just must be. Because if you don't demonize the other for threatening your certainty, then you have to face uncertainty. And people are scared to death. And I think ultimately we're going to find out disproportionately so. Not that fear should not be a part. Not that we don't have reason. We won't we won't say, I don't believe we'll come and say, there was no degree of shutdown that should have occurred. There should have been a lot of shutdowns. As total as this, I'm not sure. Not having sporting events with thousands of people gathering, absolutely, we shut that down. Not having gatherings, maybe more than 10 people, I'm okay with that. Now, I think that these need to be voluntary. And you don't create laws that you can't enforce. And that in acting out the laws, you could end up causing more harm and more danger than what you're trying to prevent. And I believe, and I might be proven wrong on this, but I believe right now that that's the case. That's why you don't make these things mandatory. You don't shut things down. You don't also force people to face this, because we've have enough data at the very least for some people to reasonably assume this is a real threat to their life, or a threat to the lives of the people that they have at home if they bring it back. And so if you're going to keep it open, then immediately you have to provide what these people need to stay home. You have to allow people to just decide to stay home. People should decide whether they want to risk it or not. You have to allow consensuality on all sides. For the business owners that want to open their business, fine. But you can't force your employees to come in. If you open it and nobody comes, then you don't open it. That's it. And you can't fire them. You can't hire new people to replace. You can't hire new people to replace them. No, you can't. And they get benefits. They get taken care of. If you can't freeze rents, if you can't freeze debts, then you get them the money that they need so they can pay their bills. There's all kinds of ways that this can be done that are a lot more, I'll say, thoughtful and judicious than because what you're seeing is plans of action that fundamentally are born from the minds of psychopaths. And these psychopaths are taking an opportunity to redesign the universe over the corpse that they themselves are, I won't say intentionally creating, but at this point, yes. Not initially. I believe initially this was a panic act. This was fear that led them to hammer everything down. And then when, hey man, look at the power we have. Look at the opportunity we have. We could pass a $2 trillion. I want you to take that in. That $2 trillion bill alone, with the $4 trillion in loans, fundamentally changed the whole climate, the whole market in America overnight, with no input whatsoever from anyone but the billionaires and their millionaire lackeys. That's the Senate and the Congress, the millionaire lackeys. They're just a little two-bits. Believe you me, everybody in Congress, they're just petty little. I mean, I'm sure their billionaire handlers laugh at them when they fluster up their little peacock feathers. And they're like, look at that. Look, Nancy thinks she has agency. Ah! Nancy will do what I tell her to do, and she will. And she will. Donald is not one of those people. That's one of the problems. But this is not a defense of Donald. Donald is, listen, if you love Donald, I'm not here to hate on you, but I just want to let you know that man can eat a bunch of proverbials, if you know what I'm saying. I'm keeping the show clean, but I have at this point I have nothing but hatred for that man. I'm sorry. I appreciate the qualities that he has and how some of those qualities may help America to some degree. But for me, there's far more about this man that's just nuts. That's just insane. And the biggest thing for me is the immigration thing. Well, anyway, I won't go down that path. Let me just say that I am no friend of Donald Trump, but he certainly isn't one of these folks. I almost said self-made. No, he's not self-made. He's government-made, corporate-made. So, and they're one and the same, governments, corporations. But he's a government corporate-made billionaire, and he's kind of his own man. Now, he's not his own man. He needs to have other billionaires in his faction. Fundamentally, what you're seeing is a factional war between billionaires that is being lived out through our lives, and almost all of us, whether you're left or right, whether you're an Antifa or even a white supremacist. You don't have to always be either one of those things, although I can get along with Antifa. Actually, I can't get along with white supremacists, but I can hope for white supremacists that they can turn away from their self-defeating and consensual destroying ways, but they can find a place that is there is more common ground between an Antifa and a white supremacist than there is between those two and the billionaires that have led both of them in large degrees down their particular vehicles of power, their particular ideational vehicles of power that have largely been, if not created, co-opted by the billionaires. Some people end up in some particular versions and strains that have not yet been co-opted by the billionaires, but on the main, most folks that are in the Antifa and or the white supremacist thing, and they're by the way, I don't want to I'm looking at, Antifa is targeting white supremacists. That's why I use that example. But I do not consider Antifa in the classification of white supremacist. I am I don't really favor violence as in general. So I'm philosophically I have issues with Antifa, but I don't view Antifa like I do white supremacists. I can sit down and have dinner with a member of Antifa, have a good relationship, and be friends with them. Got no problem. I would have I'm not saying I can't be friends with a white supremacist, but I would be very, very difficult, extremely difficult for me. So, because for me, racism is, from a practical sense, from a personal preference kind of sense, where I prefer consensuality, racism is a consensual killer, a consensuality killer. It is one of the easiest ways to create these angels and demons narratives that this is what the psychopaths rely on us continuing to reinforce, these angels and demons narratives. So I don't see Antifa I have issues with Antifa in terms of their philosophical approach to when do you use violence. That's always a question, though. It's a philosophical question, fair question to ask. When do you apply violence? And I disagree with some of their conclusions. But I'll leave it at that. I kind of meandered a little bit there, but there you have it. So the bottom line is we are left guessing. And I would implore you that to ask yourself much tougher questions if you feel like you know for certain. Go look at the other side. Go check out their data. And you're going to have to wade through their shrilleries and their idiocies. And they all have their own shrilleries and idiocies and their own predictable talking points and all that other crap. But in between all that, there's truth to be found. And I'll tell you this, there's truth to be found in propaganda that the propagandists did not intend you to see. So don't reject propaganda as a source for truth. Let's get to this last one. I'll touch on this briefly because I did one way too long on that one. Toy car transforms into wheelchair thanks to 3D printing robotics high schoolers. Excerpt from Truth Theory. Robotics students converted a toy car into a motorized wheelchair for family who couldn't afford one. Born with a genetic defect, Cillian Jackson was not able to perform proper motor functions. The only movement that this 2-year-old could do was with a stroller or move around in his parents' arms. But did he have a smartphone? Could he do the smartphone? We need smartphones for more people. Wait, the only movement. So could he move his hands? Could he move his arms? I'm assuming. Now I'm confused. I thought he could move his arms, but now I'm. Oh, here it is. I missed it. Oh no, never mind. It's arms. His parents' arms. It's not about his arms. Okay, I just assumed he could move his arms, but now I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay. For a 2-year-old, this lack of freedom must have been difficult. Though Cillian may have not expressed it, his parents knew they had to do something about it. They wanted to buy a wheelchair for their child and give him the freedom to move around on his own and gain better independent mobility. Unfortunately, Cillian was too small to get any insurance, and a proper wheelchair would have costed. No, sorry, Truth Theory. No. Would have cost about $20,000 more, and I love Truth Theory, so I'm not busting them. I got my own stuff, so I'm not throwing glass. I'm not throwing glass at a brick house. Definitely not throwing glass at a brick house. Not doing that. You know what? I'm keeping that. The Farmington High School had a robotics team called Rogue Robotics who had won a lot of awards for the wonder inventions. When they heard about the 2-year-old, they knew they could bring about a positive change in a child's life. There was no hesitation. They started immediately, and I'm just giving the excerpt, so you have to click and find the rest. But essentially, and this is what the picture for the big wheel is, they used the big wheel and other parts and 3D printing to create this motorized wheelchair for this kid for like pennies on the dollar. So there you go. This is again another example where, because of the technology that we have today, we can offer fully functioning, viable, cheap, homegrown alternatives to these expensive technological wonders. We can have our own technological wonders for pennies on the dollar. This is just another way. This is, as I like to call this is consensual building technology. Technology that empowers individuals to say no, builds consent when more and more individuals, neighbors, have that same experience. When neighbors have the power to say no, and then collectively communities, associations have the power to say no, then people find a whole lot of incentives to find the common ground that allows them to continue to function in the overall aggregates. Stuff gets worked out. Consensual institutions will emerge. That's the whole idea. Well, this has been the headline segment, and that has been your 4 p.m. show. Coming up next is the talk feature, and that's the 5 o'clock show if you're watching on the YouTube channel, Akjun Batsa. And the headline for that is, a ghost gun in every home, thanks to science. Oh, yeah. So I got that first segment done and chugging along. Stop or go. What do you do? Stop or go. Stop or go. What do you do? You go, right? Even if your acid reflux is suddenly repeating on you, as they say. And you're like, whoa, what the heck? Ugh. Oh, gosh. Dorothy. Yeah, Dorothy. You know, that is a reference to a song by T-Bone Burnett called, what is it called? Oh, this bothers me. We need this. We need to know what it is. But T-Bone, what is his name? Oh, never mind. I can't remember it. I'm sorry. And the internet's let me down because I don't have enough of the words gathered to know specifically what to say. So let's just get to the feature segment then. Whoops. I left the light on. I don't want to leave the light. I want to leave a room. This is the light. See, there the light's on, and now the light's off. Okay, let's record the this segment here. This is the talk feature. Let's get the talk feature done. This is the talk feature for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. A ghost gun in every home, thanks to science. 3D printing just entered the top-of-the-line metal manufacturing standard. The Aggies have done it. Texas A&M Aggies, that is. The gang in Aggieland have put together a research project that has successfully produced 3D printed objects from hard steel. And they managed to do it with machine precision. For those that are in the know of metal 3D printing, you know one of the limitations of 3D printing has been its lack of ability to build durable enough materials for high-pressure parts. The game has changed. The ripples are flowing outward. Hold on. After the brief, I'll share more about those ripples. I totally screwed that sentence up. I got to read that sentence over, ladies and gentlemen. I got to do this right. This is the part that I would like cut out if I had the ability to take the time to do such things. The ripples are flowing outward. Hold on, after the brief, and I'll share more about those ripples. There you go. That's how it's supposed to be read. So this is an excerpt from phys.org. Researchers uncover the art of printing extremely hard steels flawlessly. Researchers from the Texas A&M University, in collaboration with scientists in the Air Force Research Laboratory, have now developed guidelines that allow 3D printing of martensitic steels into very sturdy, defect-free objects of nearly any shape. Strong and tough steels have tremendous applications, but the strongest ones are usually expensive. The one exception being martensitic steels that are relatively inexpensive, costing less than $1 per pound. That's key. Again, we're lowering the cost, making it more accessible. Said Dr. Ibrahim Karaman, Chevron professor, it says Chevron Professor 1 and head of the Department of Materials Science and Engineering. I don't get what that's supposed to mean. We have developed a framework so that 3D printing of these hard steels is possible into any desired geometry, and the final object will be virtually defect-free. Although the procedure developed was initially for martensitic steels, researchers from the Texas A&M said they have made their guidelines in general enough so that the same 3D printing pipeline can be used to build intricate objects from other metals and alloys as well. The findings of the study were reported in the December issue of the journal Acta Materialia. No, I missed that I. Acta Materialia. See, when your YouTube channel is named Akchun Batsa, you appreciate that name. End of excerpt. Now, I want you to note that we have here another example of tech lowering the cost of high-quality production. A trend that is happening, just noted another place earlier today in our show, if you're watching the live stream on dlive.tv/FREEQO, a trend that is happening everywhere around us, and it is the one greatest open secret the Citadelians, who currently enjoy a significant technological and high-quality craft advantage, wish to keep obscured from you. That tech is leveling their ability to artificially limit our resources, intellectually and materially. In this breakthrough, not only do we now expand the possibility of microfactories in every neighborhood, producing a vast majority of parts the community needs to fix what they have, and that's just the start. But we also get a ghost gun empowering tech that will increase our ability, the ability of we poors to control the means of defensive production. Celebrate, friends. It's a good time to be alive. But as usual, all of this is contingent on the tech being free and open to the world to utilize, or from the perspective of development of similar, maybe even better tech that will allow we poors to have a gun shop in every garage if we wanted to. And the colonizers of the mines can do little to stop it. So we'll see how it plays out, but I'm putting my digitals on team consensuality, putting my digitals on people like Amir Tayaki. Oh man, hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look this up. This is worth it. This is worth it. All right, let's go. I want to get this up and have it up here in advance. So we're talking about, yeah, you know what? I'll bring up his Twitter. No. I don't want to do that. See, this is why I brought up something that I didn't want anyone to see. See, I've learned, don't show your work until you're sure you're not showing more than your work. Know what I mean? So this is, let's just take this back here. Guys like this. This is Amir Tayaki foresees a dark tech renaissance. Nobody in the cryptocurrency space is thinking big enough. Now, I did not actually choose to make this. This is one of the wire links, I think, that I chose to make this. And I had reasons to not particularly talk about this. Not that I'm hiding it or anything. I have reasons for picking the combinations of stories that I do at times, and this didn't fit into that particular set. Nobody in the cryptocurrency space is thinking big enough. Oh, what did I just do? What did I just do? Okay, that was the message. Here we go. And former Kurdish YPG militia member, basically, well, what Amir has done is wherever there have been folks that are struggling to try to create some sort of stateless solution that needs tech assistance, he comes in and he helps them out with their mesh networks, with their bitcoins, their digital currencies, their crypto encryptions, and he is basically a one of these open source tech warriors. He's the anti-IP. He recognizes IP. He would be totally aligned with how I see IP. And then he went over to Rojava, and I've talked about Rojava in the show before and what's going on over there, where you have the Rojavans have created I guess what you could somewhat call a kind of a non-state state, if you will, but it's much more a consensually based model of governance than anything else around it. And he has gravitated. There's a lot of movement in Catalonia, which is why I follow Catalonia a lot, because they have the same. They've done this before. The Spanish Civil War is centered around. Well, they were mostly anarcho-communist, and now. Well, there's more of a mix, I think, but generally they're kind of in the ANCOM kind of family. But and the Rojavans are kind of in the ANCOM family, although they would not want to be called communist or even socialist. I guess you would call them municipalists, Murray Bookchin, but this Ocalan comes along later, and he modifies it, makes it more relevant to the local condition that the Kurds were facing at the time, and the Kurds picked this up. Now they've opened it. It's not, Rojava is not just Kurds. It's interesting. I think what they call him a Kurdish YPG militia member. He wasn't really Kurdish. I mean, he was in the, I guess you could say he was in the Kurdish YPG, but he's not Kurdish. But there are plenty of people that, if I was a young man and I had no family ties, I could very well have found myself going to Rojava. If I was 18 years old, I would have gone yesterday to Rojava. Tell you that. I hear people talking about decentralization, derivatives, and mortgages. Tayaki said to an encrypted, an enraptured audience of hundreds on Friday. Why are we not talking about how to create dark finance tools we can leverage against government bonds? Okay, and I'll just leave you that little floater there, just a little bit. So he's it's about subverting the tech and freeing the tech and making the tech protected for the individual against the many. That's the idea. The idea is to, if you will, democratize tech. And I'm all about that. I'm not sure the degree to which I may be involved, aligned with his other particular ideational constructs, such as he may have them, but I'm certainly totally aligned with how he views tech, and certainly a guy that I look at. And when I first discovered this guy, seeing what he did, it kind of reinforced a lot of the assumptions I already had. Plus, he introduced me to I guess he took me deeper. It took me deeper. It took me deeper into the woods of understanding what was really going on, as far as the leveraging of tech as a means of liberation or a means of oppression. That's the real story of the 21st century, at least in the first 20, 30 years of it, probably. And I think with that, we will end this particular feature. This has been our 5 o'clock show. If you're watching on Action Batsa, if you're watching the excerpts that I post on there between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Coming up at 6 p.m. is the News Talk Focus. It's the Talk Focus. And the top focus is going to be social media gonna have to pay the down unders newsers. All right. Turn off the lights. Wow, I got the feature. I like to generally see if the features, if they could be like 11 minutes. Generally, what I think I'm trying to, and I don't want to make this a cardinal rule. If I talk and I get a half-hour segment, so be it. I don't care. I'm not religiously going to restrain myself. But in general, I'm trying to, hopefully, I'm hoping in the course of time the show will naturally evolve to where more reliably than not, and I'm not worried about it right now. I'm still just learning what this show is as I'm going along here. But eventually, I think in general the show's 10 to 15 minutes. That's what I'd like to get the segments down to. Eventually, allowing for some occasionals that go 30 minutes or so, and the banter in between, though, that part I really don't necessarily want to regulate too much, except for like today I have a little bit more time, so if I run a little bit later, I'm ahead of myself. I've done a lot of I've already been working on the content for tomorrow's show. I've already been prepping for that because of the type of stories that I talk about on in general. I can afford some stories that maybe they didn't happen. I'm working on stories today that'll be on the show tomorrow pretty early. But these are general stories that they got a lot more legs to them. Not a lot of people talking about a lot of these stories that I'm talking about anyway. So there you have it. So let's get ready for the focus section, and we're here. We're ready. Ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? This is the Talk Focus for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Social media gonna have to pay the down unders newsers. In a decision that is sure to have worldwide implications, Australia's government has determined that Google and Facebook will be paying Australian news outlets for using their content on their websites. If other nations follow, the ability of individuals to share news links on social media platforms in some countries might soon be challenged by regulations your country might be dreaming of writing even as I write this focus point post. As usual, the cure, the hammer and nail solution of states will have, I am betting, unintended consequences that might develop into a net loss for the very people Australia's government ostensibly seeks to protect, the local news producers. And we'll see how this unfolds. And what I'm wagering on is possible. Australia is a market. Let's see what what's the population of Australia? I think it's 17 million. And I just want to make sure that it is 17 million. Did I not talking? Which, by the way, is why Australia is totally at. Oh, it's 25 million. Still, 25 million. Remember, that's your audience. That's your market, 25 million. And that market has just said, hey, I'm going to significantly raise the cost of you being here. And then, what do they do? I think there's a chance that they may very well just say, well, I'll tell you what. We don't want to pay these, so we're just going to block all Australian news outlets from having access to our platform. That might be what they do. That's what I would do if I was them. If you're talking about a market of 25 million when you have a market of hundreds of millions, that's what I would do. I wouldn't want to allow Australia to set this precedent. And then maybe Australia will develop its own. And that's what eventually what states are going to have to do. This is the cost of nation-statism. This has to be done. Nation-states recognize they must develop their own infrastructures. And they must look at social media as a critical infrastructure now. And that means they can't have social media. They can't have the highways built by... we can't have our highways built by the Chinese, and any more than the Chinese would want to have their highways built by Americans. Highways in China should be built by the Chinese. Highways in America should be built by the Americans. That's the conclusion that all the nation states have. Whether they fully express it or not, some of them have pretty openly, and some of them, I think the check's in the mail, and when it gets there, you're going to have a bill to pay, and the bill is bye-bye Facebook and Google and YouTube, because now nobody's going to want an American company monopolizing their social media infrastructures. And then YouTube will have to actually become an American company, because right now it's a state in and of itself. Facebook is a state in and of itself. They operate outside the parameters. Well, they really don't. They've actually had lawsuits. So, but they operate outside the parameters as far as who they're aligned to, whose interests do they serve. Nation states can't have highways that are run by people that don't serve their interests. They just can't. That's the cost of nation-statism, by the way. If you don't like it, then there's another way. There are other ways. There are multiple ways. But if you do like it, that's what you have to do. You have to nationalize your social media here in America, and everybody else will have to do the same, because those are highways. Those are highways. I mean, by all of your logic and your constructions, I'm not speaking. What do I feel philosophically? I would prefer the nation states weren't there in the first place, and then we wouldn't have to deal with these parameters that lead us to these awful necessities. The cost of nation statism is increasing logarithmically. The cost of or algorithmically, whichever way it's more. Algorithmically? Yeah, logarithmically. What am I saying? Logarithmically. Of course it's logarithmically. Logarithmically increasing. And the benefits are decreasing. And the benefits can be replaced with cheap home tech alternatives. You know what I called it? That's right. I called it just homestead tech. That's what I'm calling it, homestead tech. And maybe that's what Australia needs to do. Have their own. Now, what I would like to see is people build these networks that are not, they're not servers. They're shared data swimming back and forth between groups, where you create the videos on your own servers, and your servers connect to the mesh networks, and the mesh networks have interfaces, GUI interfaces that allow everyone to. It looks like YouTube, but it's not YouTube. And people will be able to filter the data by how they want to filter it. They'll be able to create their own search engines and their own codes if they want to have whatever standards they want to have regarding their input with the rest of the world. And maybe some will become larger, some smaller. You have networks of folks that are part of associations. Like that's what I want to see. No more YouTube. Just who knows? Maybe YouTube will become a generic term. It'll be everybody. Well, what YouTube do you use? YouTube won't be a company. It'll be a phrase. What YouTube do you use? Well, I got my own YouTube, and I got, I actually run it, and I got a network of about 300-400 of us that use this YouTube. Yeah, but are you connected to the national? Oh, yeah, man. Yep. Or no, I'm not connected to the national, not interested, or whatever. Those are the kind of conversations that we'll have in the future. At least these are the kind of conversations I hope we're having in the future, because it means that we've broken the IP chains off of IT. And if we do that, I'm telling you, if you just do that, you're going to open floodgates. If I was the American president, these are the things that I would do. And I would probably do them in sort of, first, I would stop the immigration stuff. I would stop hunting humans. I would stop the hunting humans thing. Stop that immediately. Stop. It's not going to happen. Second thing, I would, since we can just make money, I would take maybe $3 or $4 trillion, and I would get it to the doers in the communities of blight across the country, particularly targeting the ghettos, the projects, the inner cities, gutting them out, creating totally different environments. Maybe they can build where they're at, however they want to build, or maybe they'll be able to, with the money that they're getting, they'll be able to collectively come together, buy land and franchise land and set up new communities in other places. Whatever they want to do, it'll be up to them. But we basically wipe out the whole ghetto model altogether. So I would get the money, and I would also end the families having to stay not families to get welfare. Married couples will get welfare. Change that immediately. Those are the first few things that I would do. And that alone would have a fundamental shift in the dynamic in this country if you did that. That would free up so many people to have so much more healthier conversations if you did something like that. And we can clearly do it. You take that, instead of the 3 or 4 trillion that we're using the way you take that 6 trillion that they just did. You make the loans, make them grants, loans that could conditionally become grants. If you meet the basic parameters, and the parameters aren't going to be, I'm going to institute my morality constructs into you, and I'm going to limit your business interaction in ways that have nothing to do with the safety and welfare of human beings, and everything to do with protecting your competitors, your bigger competitors. As long as you don't do that, the conditions are that you're creating community. However you measure that, you're creating community, and community means that people have a means to make a living that's not destroying their lives, and that allows them to create healthy, safe, nutritional environments for their kids to have every bit of as much of a chance of developing fully intellectually and otherwise that so many of these kids don't have right now. Nutrition alone is giving a lot of kids in America, especially children in any places of blight, whether they're rural blight or the ghettos, whatever we're talking about. I mean, we're understanding more and more how all of this is so fundamental to our ability to develop as human beings. You change that dynamic. The thing is that I guess conservatives don't understand because they're bootstrappers. That's what they say. Pick you up by your bootstraps. It's your fault. If you're a loser, if you're on welfare, you're part of a welfare generation. That's your problem. Yeah, because they don't understand. They don't understand what the circumstances lead you to when you're I understand that when I was going to an inner city school, I was going to an inner city high school, John Harris, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And that school was, I thought it was pretty rough. I don't know how rough it was compared to other schools, but certainly, people carried knives to school, including me. I carried a knife to school, and I wasn't the only one. And there were times when I had to show my knife to feel like I'd be protected. And if I didn't show my knife, I probably would have been beat up. So it was that kind of school. We didn't have shootings. Kids weren't shooting each other. It was all knives. But it was pretty dangerous. relatively speaking, certainly compared to most schools. And the interesting thing is the inner city school that was right across from it is this really beautiful development and beautiful, beautiful homes. None of those kids went to this school. School right across the street from none of those kids in those beautiful homes went to that school. Of course not. But I noticed then, because I have been in different schools, I have experienced suburban schools, I've been in an orphanage, I've been in rural schools, and I've been in city schools, and in this case, inner city. I was in a lot of schools, did a lot of traveling, shifting, whatever. And certainly in this school system, my ability to get an education was significantly less. The stresses that I experienced, I walked to school. For whatever reason, my mother didn't give me a ride, and I walked to school every day. She wasn't the only person that did this to her kids. Everybody thought it was build character, I guess, making your kids walk to school. You're sending them to school to get a freaking education. Hey, you're going to walk 2 miles, literally 2 miles to school every day, and up a very, very steep hill. Is right from the start. Like that alone put me in a position where I get to school and I've already diminished my capacity to be engaged. It's stupid. But that's the way we thought back then. Build character, whatever. Build character really meant we should beat on you a little. That's pretty much. And I'm not excluding my mother. It was common. It's the way it was. And maybe some parents still do this. But the school itself, it was a riot. Not literally, but it was not a good riot. It was a riot. It was chaos. It was unsafety. It was always having to fear getting. Because I was a skinny little white kid, and white kids were the minority in this group. And it was mostly black, fair amount of Hispanic, and then white, maybe about 25% white, and then like 5% Vietnamese. We got a huge, in that time, there was a huge amount of people. One of those was like one of my closest friends, Ben. And he was one of these Vietnamese boat people that came over. He was really smart, really cool dude. But that was the makeup of our little society. And I certainly, if you were a good-looking, athletic white kid, you were not in any danger. But if you were an ugly, nerdy, skinny little white kid like I was, yeah, being white was not cool. Not when you're weak and you're walking down the street alone. Yeah, I've experienced. I've experienced stuff. I'll just say that I've experienced stuff. My ability to get an education in that system significantly less than when I was in West Perry High School. That was a rural community, so it had other issues. It was definitely behind the times as far as its level of education compared to when I went to Milton Hershey. Milton Hershey is I guess it's a school for disadvantaged. It's a private school for poor kids. It's not an orphanage, but there's a number of orphans there too. But Milton Hershey, high level of academic standards, way higher than anything else that I've experienced in all the schools I went to. But West Perry low, but West Perry safe, very safe. And during that period of time, I had much better nutrition. I lived in a much better situation. I had a really nice house. Like, I experienced what it means to live in all of these circumstances growing up as a kid. So I learned early on just how significant it was to be in a suburban or a upper middle class. And where I kind of went from a poor orphan to kind of an upper middle class kind of lifestyle, a rural upper middle class lifestyle in the blink of an eye. And that was cool. I loved that period of time for a lot of reasons. But anyway. So, yeah, we're starting to understand that. So you do that. And that alone. And then next thing I would do is I won't say that I would cancel IP, because there are some exceptions that I would within the framework of we're still talking about we're going to have a nation state. Then there are some IPs that I understand some degrees of IP, especially if we're talking about non-essential things like ingredients for meals. But essential IPs, those are the things that we want to free. I don't even want to wrestle as far as the music. I'll just say this: the music IP power must be significantly reduced. Human beings need to be able to play music on their live streams, even if they're live stream. If the focus, they should be able to play music on their live streams and not have it taken from them, not having their money taken from them. So there would be modifications to the music IP, most assuredly. And I'm willing to concede some points because we live in a nation-state parameter. But for me, I prefer to just wipe out all IP except for anything to do with branding and identity. If you're trying to hijack a brand or an identity and claim it as your own, that would be different. That IP I respect, because you can't that's fraud on your part if you represent yourself. Like if you want to take my stuff, for instance, and use it, as long as you're not putting it off that you created it, I have nothing to say to you. Take my stuff. You could take my stuff and totally mirror it on your site, and I'll never say a word to you. You don't have to offer commentary, have to do a thing. You just totally rip my stuff off. And if you get 1,000 gazillion views and you make money, so be it. I'm willing. I'm willing. I don't care. If you get 1,000 gazillion views, I'll tell you what, I will make money. I will. Somehow, those 1,000 gazillion views that you're building, that audience you're building, as long as, again, you let them know it's me, they're going to come my way. You may end up making more money than me, but because of what you did, I probably end up making more money than if you didn't do it. So I'm okay with that. Go ahead, take my stuff, spread the Freako word. Free to use it any way you want. Monetize the heck out of it. Just be sure to credit me. That's it. And you don't even have to link to my site. All you got to do is say, this is Freako. Freako Talks the News from the Action Bots YouTube channel. And you don't have to link to the site. You don't have to link to any videos. Just do that. That's my idea of IP. You do that, you're fine. If you take something and you try to put it and you make it so that it looks like you did it, that's when I will sue you. I will drive you into the... No, I probably won't sue you. I'm not really... I just wouldn't trust you anymore. I'm like, nope, don't trust that person. That would be bad. Yeah, now I probably... all things being equal, if anybody did want to sue you, I totally support them doing it. But I have my own reason for not suing you. Making things that make themselves a breakthrough in self-assembly. Scientists in Turkey have taken a giant leap in the science of self-assembly, of developing core systems that are capable of building themselves according to predictable patterns. That's building themselves. This is so cool. Now, this isn't the only... I've seen other similar stories. There's not the only ones that are doing something like this. But there you have it. The team in Turkey has shifted the focus of self-assembly of designing the core in the system that the system then produces to creating basic parameters that will hopefully produce the outcomes desired. This method involves I don't know what it was. This method involves creating. I think somehow. I'm sure what happened there is I wrote that in a way in which I hadn't in creating. Then I changed it to involves. And then I forgot to take out the end. That's probably what happened. This method involves creating conditions in which universals will emerge, allowing, in a sense, the universals to design the system for you. And that's the idea. And this is basically emergent design. The idea is that, and I kind of operate in an emergent design type of methodology. I have a ring, if you will, of standards that I operate within, a core ring of standards that I operate within. And then I hope and assume that in the course of just actually trying as consistently as possible, staying true to those standards, that this will emergently build heuristically and at a self-aware level, both levels, and all the gradations between, the system that I want to be, if you will. I attempt to engineer myself. And to degrees, I think I've been very successful, and to degrees I understand the limitation. I don't believe that I have capacity to completely take control of my mind, and that's why I call myself a steward and not an owner. I'm not an owner because I can't own something I can't fully understand and claim and control, and I can't. Nobody else can either. But hopefully I'm moving closer towards taking more and more stewardship of who and what I am, such as that is. So this story is fascinating. That's a terrible thing. You should never say that. All right, what'd you think of that? Oh, it's a fascinating story. Oh, is it now? I asked, and how is it fascinating? Well, it's just really neat. Okay. Excerpt, you're fired. You get out. You're fired. That's what would happen. But I can't fire myself because it's stop or go. Excerpt from Eureka Alert. Scientists uncover principles of universal self-assembly. For years, researchers have searched for the working principles of self-assembly that can build a cell, complex biological organism, as well as a crystal, far simpler inorganic material, in the same way. Now, a team of scientists in Turkey has demonstrated the fundamental principles of a universal self-assembly process acting on a range of materials starting from a few atoms large quantum dots up to nearly 100 trillion atoms large human cells. Their method is highlighted in Nature Physics. To initiate self-assembly, either you force the system to deliver a specific outcome or you use its inner dynamics to your advantage for universal outcomes. We followed the second approach, said Dr. Serum Ilde of Bilkent University, Yunnan, who led the study. The researchers not only demonstrated the self-assembly of simple as well as complex constituents. Were you trying to say constituents? That are more than, let me make sure I got this right. The researchers not only demonstrated the self-assembly of simple as well as complex, is that supposed to be constituents? That are, maybe it's constitutes, and I don't know that use. I don't know, might be dumb. Okay, I'm going to say constituents for now, that are more than 4 orders of magnitude different in size and mass. They all come together following a sigmoid function, also known as the S-curve. Curiously, they also observed that the individual deviations from the S-curve follow the statistics of the Tracy-Wildum distribution, which manifests in diverse social, economic, and physical systems. Serum and I were attending a math seminar when we first saw this particular distribution. Serum looked at me and said, "Well, that's it. We need to search for it." And we did, said Dr. F. Omar Ilde, also of Bilkent University, Yunnan. Physics and electrical and electronics engineering. I guess I had to add that part. Special. Co-author of the paper. The seminar was given by Dr. Gorke, I don't know what happened here, Yildirim, I'll just say, of Bilkent University, Mathematics. Another co-author says, "After the seminar, they approached me. The idea was fascinating. We started working on it immediately." Dr. Gop McKay, the first author of the paper, adds, "What motivates us nowadays is to predict and study new examples of systems in Tracy-Wildum universality and understand why it manifests in very many different systems." It's basically, it's emergent design, which is, I mean, within my Christian framework, this is how I think God has worked. When the 7 days, so to speak, there is no 7 days. It's not even exact. It's more of a poetic truth, if you will, description of the process of the emergence of the design that was created from an initial set of standards that would predictably produce the outcomes that they have. That's essentially what they're trying to work at, to be able to, and you'd want to boil it down to the most basic. If you can get it down, the least amount of factors that you have to deal with to produce the predictable results, the better. And so wherever you're at, you're still going to be looking to reduce. And again, just imagine you have the capacity within you to have these, I'm going back to my AI buddies. Got them AI buddies that you built yourself. And they have the capacity to come alongside you and help aid you in figuring out whatever you want to design, whatever type of object, using some form of organic and inorganic combinations of factors that, think about the experimentations that would occur. That would be awesome. That'll be incredible. Of course, one of them will probably eat the entire universe because they stumbled upon something that, oops, and so be it. I say, so be it. With that, I'm going to end this. This is the first half of the show, Frico Talks the News. And you really need to listen to the whole live stream because you miss all the fun and games in between the segments that you see aired on the YouTube channel Acubatza. The live stream can be found first and foremost on dlive.tv/FREEQO. That's FREEQO. Get an account and follow me. Come on, we can be buds. We can be buds, dude. Come on, we can be buds. At 6, this is the 6 o'clock show. So now the 7 p.m. show is going to be our news poem. And our news poem for the day is The Epic of Vagus, or The Science of Connection. So we'll see you guys at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on the Action Beat Batsa YouTube channel. All right. We're back. We're back in the saddle again. We're back and we're ready. Oh. You know what I did? Oh, y'all know what I did. Y'all that watch all the time. Nobody watches all the time. Oh. Where are we at? There we go. Got to turn the light off. Remember, when you leave the room, turn the light off. That bears repeating. Ladies and gentlemen, this is sound wisdom that I give to you. I am Frico. I am speaking to you. The people. So, thank you for joining the first half of the show. I figured this was going to be a long show. Because I got a lot of stuff in me, and sometimes the best way to get it out is to talk. So it's probably gonna be a longer show. Probably second half won't be as long as the first half though, because now I'm actually cutting across some. Now I got to start watching for time. So, all right, we'll see you in about 5 minutes. Probably about 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm going to take a little break here. I'm going to freshen up my my makeup and powder and all that, and then come back fresh as a daisy. Optimistic and full of hope and love and wonder and all, really, and all. All right, we'll see you on the other side.
Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me. Love overwhelmed me.
Yeah.
Love overwhelmed me.
Alrighty then. Alrighty then. We are back. We are back, ready to do the second half of the show, which will probably not be as long as the first half. So technically, it's not the second half, but that's another matter altogether. Let's get right to the back of the show, and here we go. We've got ourselves a trigger just for you.
Warning, the material you're about to be exposed to is one of the minds of individuals who are limited in their capacity to understand the actual reality of power around them, just as you and everyone else alive currently are. What you're about to hear are opinions, suppositions, like gospel or scientific truths, not infallible certainties. Brace yourself for incoming opinions that could confirm or deny your preferential view of the reality of power. Brace yourself for fallible material, fallible opinions, and values reflected, but nonetheless variably firmly held. We do not apologize to anyone we met about. We do not apologize for daring to express our views and impressions of what we believe is and what we hope to see. We will keep talking so long as we are able.
And now, Frico attempts to talk about the news without freaking out. That's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. That is what I pledge. I pledge to never, never, ever freak out when I'm talking about the news for you, the people. Until, of course, I do, and then I won't have, and then I'll dust myself up and be on my merry way. Be on my merry, merry way. I'll live in a world in which I am either going insane or everyone else is. Or maybe the problem is that we're all going insane. That could be what's happening, because there is no chill in Coronavilles, including me. I have very little chill in Coronavilles. I think most of us have very little chill in Coronavilles. It's making for some, well, I won't say strange bedfellows, because it's having the opposite. The strange bedfellows are no longer bedfellows. I just had lost another friend. So, just in the course of the break, there was I noticed that there was a blockage that occurred. So, message sent. Weird. Just really, I have to say, if you don't have a strong identity in yourself, that these have to be incredibly trying times for people. I won't say that I do have a strong identity in myself, but I think I have at least enough that I can somewhat deal with it. That particular friend was somebody I've been friends with for 5-6 years. Maybe longer, right? Maybe about 5-6 years. Yeah. And kind of growing to kind of expect it to happen now. And in parts because of me myself, I'm just as guilty as everybody else here. So I'm not trying to paint myself off as I've got no patience for the world anymore. I think a lot of us just don't. So we're just frictioning and cutting one another off. I've not cut anyone off, but I've definitely been cut off. So weird world. But I do believe, even a lot of people that have cut themselves off for me now, that a lot of these folks are going to come back, and we'll gain our sanity again. Maybe I'll gain mine too, because I'm sure that I certainly don't operate in the way that I used to, and Coronavilles has really kind of messed that up a lot too. So, like everybody else, changed everything, and so I think that there's reason to hope, folks. I know it's tough. It's really difficult, and a lot of us, maybe we even, we're doing it to ourselves. But if you persevere, 9 chances out of 10, you will make it through. And there is a lot of opportunity on the other side. And we're gonna talk about some of that. How about we talk about some of that? Let's get to our news poem segment. How about we do that? Let's do the news poem segment, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's get ready to record the news poem segment. This is the news poem segment for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. My name is Frico for Frico.com, and this is your news poem. The Epic of Vagus, or The Science of Connection. In the past 2 years or so, I have undergone a change in my physiological circumstance that made me become acutely aware of the physiological effects of emotions, stresses, fears, hopes, etc. I talked earlier about this. Actually, in my mind when I was talking earlier, I thought I had already talked about this. I had already talked about this just before the show as I wrote and prepared for the show. The experience has fundamentally altered the way I even look at the world. Those things that I used to not even count as cost that now I realize were significant cost on my life, the lives of others I have touched, be it negatively or positively. Understanding the power of emotions, of stresses produced by our circumstances, is causing many branches of science to rethink how it is that they examine the world around them, especially in the medical field and certainly in the psychological fields. This shift in our understanding is also beginning to find expression in the political, with factional opportunists ready to jump in and turn an authentic disenfranchisement into a vehicle of power for their own particular faction. And one element that fundamentally affects our emotional compass is the physiological impact of human connection, which is what the news part of our news poem will cover. I wrote this the other way around. I do that sometimes. I'm not dyslexic, but I have definitely high dyslexic tendency, so I'm probably in the spectrum. Poem first, news follows. No! News first, poem follows. Excerpt from Discover magazine. How human connections affects our hearts and hormones. It's becoming increasingly clear that our biological responses to the outside world are stronger than we once thought. And it's not all negative. Hormones associated with love and social connections can light up our nervous system and give us a health boost. And I believe joy can do the same. And like I said in the earlier, if you're not watching the whole live stream, you missed the part earlier where I was talking about how creating joy, intentional joy moments. If you haven't experienced a joy moment that day, create an intentional joy moment. There are ways you can do that. Because you should view it as medicine, as a vitamin, a supplement that you need. Especially right now, you need joy, you need happiness, you need love. When we experience feelings of love and connection, our brains release a cocktail of hormones and chemicals. Attraction, romantic love, platonic love, and social connection all come with a specific mixture of hormones, but most involve some combination of dopamine, testosterone, estrogen, vasopressin, and oxytocin. So what controls the release of this love machine, the most powerful neural network in the body, called the vagus nerve? Vagus is Latin for wandering and in line with its poetic. Hold on. I am disturbed. I have just now noticed a flaw in this. I have reason to be concerned. This is not the right image that's being showed, ladies and gentlemen. I will not. I thought I missed this. Somehow I missed the news poem image. I got all the other images, but there we go. See, there we go. That's the way it's supposed to be. And, I'm glad I got that. At least I got it before the poem, because I definitely want the poem part to have that image on there. Otherwise, why? See that? Stop or go. Screwed up. What do? You keep going. Understanding the power of emotions, of stresses produced by our circumstances, is causing many branches of science to rethink how it is that they examine the world around them, especially in the medical field, and certainly in the psychological fields. This shift in our understanding is also beginning to find expressions in the I already read that. Oh, okay. This is Am I writing right? Oh yeah, I read all this. This is from Discover Magazine. How human connection affects our hearts and hormones. I read all that. Oh, here we go. I guess I'm at the end here. Vagus is Latin for wandering, and in line with its poetic name, the vagus wanders everywhere through your body. It exits the brainstem at the base of your skull. See, that's why there in the image there. You need that. See that? See that? That's why I do what I do, man, because I love you guys. I love you. I love all of you, man. Even the people that hate me, I love you, man. Vagus is Latin for wandering, and in line with its poetic name, the vagus wanders everywhere through your body. It exits the brainstem at the base of your skull, deep in your neck, and runs down near the carotid artery. From that spot, it shoots down to your heart and beyond, where it regulates heartbeat, lung function, and digestive flow, among other vital systems. So you think about how it touches everything. This thing is coiled around the essence of you. And I believe that we are going to discover, and I'll make the prediction, when we think about nerves, we're going to begin to think of the brain as being the entirety of the human body. We'll no longer think of this part. This is actually just a part of the brain. And there are and if we start to understand those other parts of the brain, like the what do you call it? The fascia, the organ called the fascia. The fascia is this membranic organ that covers the entirety of your organs. It keeps everything contained, but it does more than that. And it's not just on the surface; it's in betweens. It's to total throughout your body. This thing, and they've just learned that it is an organ, that it exists. So this is how it's new to us, and I think that is part of your brain. That's probably where a lot of your heuristic institutional patterns are being built. That's my suspicion, and that you're going to find out this is the totality of you. It's your brain is your entire body. That's what we're going to discover. This is why you have, well, I think you'll discover this is why your brain still creates the arm when your arm is gone, because there's these parts that are connected to your arm that are capable of still reading data and still converting data to what they assume is the message that they need to send you, that lets you understand that your arm is doing this and that. That's what I think you're going to discover, that your brain is the entirety of you, and you don't control all of it, and you may not ever be able to. That would be the weird thing, when you discover that there are parts of you. And then more when you start to discover, as I think we're already discovering, that your brain is at war with itself. That there are parts of your body that are uncomfortable with one another, that you yourself are a war zone. Let's read the poem. Vagus. Oh wait, what's the title of the poem? Because I didn't put it there. That's not right. Can't do that. Oh, the title. I gotta read that. The Epic of Vagus, or the Science of Connection. Vagus, the opening of the spine to the potential. It is a flash suppressed in a coil of nerves, machine gunning the geometry of doom, or cathedrals of a spire within, all in a trigger. A man connects to his brother. The heart is not a trigger. Thy vagus, from across the dangerous seas you cruised, body blazing under the blood-red moon, anticipating loss, connection. The frail ends are mended with brushes of hair against thighs. We mend the air with the exchange of our biomes in flow. I'm not a trigger. I want to believe you. The geometry of exchange cannot account for the ineffable glow of the spark from the coils that spring out of the friction of the exchange. A fortune in micro-instants, the chemicals that conspire to keep hope in the cells and blood in the pain. Yeah. always do that campy clap at the end. I like doing that. No, I don't do the campy clap. I think I've said this before. All this bears repeating. Because I say it does. It's my freaking show. So it bears repeating. Don't want to be there. Dude, I do want to be there. But not yet. I don't want to be there yet. And not with that screen. That was my stupid Streamlabs screen, right? Yeah. So, the next segment we're going to do is well, I'm here. Where am I at? There we go. Let's go use this screen. All right. So you notice the thing behind me. That's Donald. That's the Donald Sutherlands. This is my hero. It's the guy. So many people in my life are turning into that. That's kind of how I view him. Probably being a little emotional in my response, but that's how I see them. Right there, Donald Sutherland. Everybody is trying to shriek out who is not within the orthodoxy. And I honestly, I got to tell you, listen, I'm not trying to be outside of orthodoxies just for the sake of being outside of orthodoxies. I just happen to be there. And I think there's a number of reasons for it. I think most of it has to do with my weird circumstances of how I grew up. And the range of I've experienced at very early ages and in rotating bites in which I went away, revisited, and I for various reasons I've been in the inner city, I've been in suburbia, I've been in the country, I've been in a relatively fine economic position, and I've been in welfare. I've been on welfare as a kid. Well, I've been on welfare as an adult, for that matter. So I've experienced the range of circumstances, and I think even the way that I didn't come to Christianity through a church. I never really connected to churches. Still not connected to churches. Came to Christianity through my own self-discovery in my early 30s. So even that, I was outside of the parameters, and I didn't get those parameters. I didn't get the parameters that you all got. That's the thing. I did not get the parameters that you all got, so I never formed any. I've formed my own parameters, and as it so happens, it seems like my parameters just don't align with most of you anymore. As I've gotten older and shifted, or you've shifted, or we've all shifted, I don't align with a lot of you anymore. I'm willing to keep you in my life. You're not willing to keep me in mine, apparently. That's the way it goes. But yeah, I've shifted, and I think that I'm the product, just like you are, of my circumstance mostly. I have some self-agency, some self-direction, and a lot of, I take all personal responsibility. I don't think the world is against me and that I had an unfair advantage. I think all in the main, if I die today, I die a happy man. I have lived a good life. I'm very happy with my life. All the things that I've described, I am a successful person in the sense that I've experienced tremendous, rich, loving relationships with my wife and my daughter over a sustained period of time. And it's been fundamentally healing and it's just wonderful. So my life is I am blessed. I thank God every day for my life, even with all my misery. The only time I wasn't thanking God every day was really during my pain period time. Outside of that, I thank God every day, man. So, and I'm not I just fall outside of the parameters, and it's not because I want to. I just do. If I could, I would pick a side. I would actually love to be able to pick a side, a faction, a team. I miss team. I miss community. I have hardly any of it left anymore outside of my family, and a few core friends. Fortunately, I still have some friends. And I'm not a conservative, and I have fundamental problems with conservatives in areas that many conservatives have left me. I'm not a progressive, and I've had fundamental problems with progressives that they've left me. And it's because they have to be, everybody's becoming more and more committed to their tribe. and they can't allow for more. Less and less can they allow for dissent. And I am dissent. Now, this does, by the way, it could be I am dissent because I'm just an idiot. I have no idea what I am. I mean, I have some, I won't say that. I do have a fair amount of understanding of certain elements of who I am, but it's very, very limited. So it's more accurate to say I don't know who and what I am than it is to say I know who I am. So I'll stick with that. I don't really know who I am, and I don't think many of us do. Whether we are morally good or evil, whether we're a net loss, a net gain on the community around us, I think very, very few of us know that. And when you're in times of plenty, whatever sins, peccadillas, whatever you have, people will forgive a lot easier. If you have sins, peccadillas, if there's things about you that are annoying, they have less tolerance. And I know this because I experience this too. I have less tolerance for all of it too. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. I'm sure that it's not unique. I'm sure that I'm not the only person that's experienced this. And I've probably been on both sides of the equation as far as cutting someone off unnecessarily because they didn't fit into because I have my own orthodoxies too. Don't get me wrong. I got my own freakouts, to be sure. I'm just like you. I'm describing me as I'm describing you. We're all in this together. We're all shitheads together. I'm not going to count that as a freak out. I think saying the S word is not a freak out. So, but I prefer not to curse during the show. It helps keep me contained. Keeps the freak out contained. Because then he starts to rail off expletives, and then it's not a good show. And we don't want that. So let's get to the talk briefs. How about we do that? Let's get to the talk briefs. Back to the show. Back to the talk briefs here. And we'll get lined up, ready to record. And this is the talk briefs for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. Our top brief of the day. Team designs antibody-like receptor proteins that can bind to cytokines as possible strategy for treating coronavirus and other infections. One of the defining features of COVID-19 is the excessive immune response that can occur in severe cases. This burst of immune overreaction, also called a cytokine storm, damages the lungs and can be fatal. A team of MIT researchers has developed specialized proteins similar in structure to antibodies that they believe could soak up these excess cytokines. The idea is that they could be injected into the body and bind to the excessive cytokines as generated by the cytokine storm, removing the excessive cytokines and alleviating the symptoms from the infection, says Rui King, an MIT research scientist who is one of the senior authors of the study. The researchers have reported their initial findings in the Journal Quarterly Review of Biophysics, QRB, Discovery, and they now hope to begin testing their proteins in human cells and in animal models of cytokine release and coronavirus infection. Shoguang Zhang, a principal research scientist in the MIT Media Lab's Laboratory of Molecular Architecture, is also a senior author of the paper. Okay, I don't need to read all these names. I don't know why I shouldn't have even put that paragraph in there. Well, I think I just wanted to make sure you got the names of some of the people. I think that's why. So there you go. That's just, you see these all the time. I don't know the degree to how this will play out or not, but stuff's getting done. Developments are happening from diverse sources. And look at this. This is, now I don't know if Shoguang Zhang is there's another one. I hope this person is Chinese American. I hope, that's what I hope. I hope we have Chinese Americans that do stuff like this, because I really, as much as I loathe Chairman Xi and his particular style of nation statism, I love the Chinese people. I really do. I spent a lot of time with them over the last year and a half as far as learning their history and stuff, and there's plenty of things that are scary about them, like any other group, but I love Chinese culture in a lot of ways. They're, by the way, at their heart, they are non-IP people. They are fundamentally non-IP people. So, Raven, that's what I love about China. Now, I think, unfortunately, Chairman Xi's nation-statism is going to find an advantage in now adapting IP, unfortunately, because now they're starting to buy their own IP. They're starting to colonize minds of their own. So now they're becoming, and that's what they're doing. They're like, hey, everybody else got to colonize. It's our turn to colonize. I mean, I don't blame them. I'm not for it, though, because it sucks for me, but I totally don't blame them. But I want to see Chinese Americans authentically, not in some sort of show pony, stupid, crappy, token crappy way, like that it happens emergently that Chinese Americans do awesome things all the time, just like many of our other African Americans, white Americans. I don't know if there's a white American. I guess there's a generic white American, but maybe some Americans are like, no, I'm not white American, Italian American. I guess I'd be like kind of the white American. I'm kind of a generic white. I don't really have a. I'm mostly German, but I don't really have a strong sense of German. I don't really identify with German culture in general. And now I don't. I'm just talking in general throughout the history. There's elements that I definitely love about German culture, to be sure. I love a lot of things about Germany. But in general, I'm not really fond of German culture. Certainly not fond of a lot of German culture in the 20th century, but I don't want to continue to hold that against the Germans over and over again. They've got at some point, you gotta let the Germans like be who they actually are in the here and now. Like any other nation state, they're a mix of crap and glory. Yeah. But I don't really have any identity, so I guess you could call me just generally generic white American. But Mexican American, all these folks, man. Like that's what makes America. I mean, it's people say that phrase. You know what makes it? You know, diversity is our strength. And a lot of people that happen to be using that, they use it as a kind of a bludgeon. It's kind of an implication of. I mean, the way that I have read it, it's not always used this way, but, and again, you talk to non-consensual-minded SJWs, and they talk in very different ways. Their language structure is very different than authoritarian SJWs. So when you say diversity is our strength, that there's in the authoritarian type of framework, there's usually kind of a connotation that's implied that the diversity is just POC, people of color. That's the diversity. That's all that matters. But that's not true of a lot of SJWs, so I don't want a broad swath SJWism that way. But it is true. People may use that as a political bludgeon. It's a soft opening that they follow up quickly with. Diversity is our strength. Tired of seeing all these white people follows. Like consensual SJW doesn't say tired of seeing these white people. It says diversity is our strength, and they mean it. And it is true. It is what makes America. If the greatness of America is not in anything to do with its Constitution, its Bill of Rights, the Founding Fathers, the government. The greatness now, all of those are to some degree a reflection of the unique circumstance of America. But the greatness of America is its geography, and its diversity. The fact that we have created an environment in which we have incentivized the bestest and the brightest of the world to come to America to thrive in ways that they can never thrive in anywhere else in the world. They can come to America and become America. Truly America. We are, like, our diversity is absolutely the only thing that makes us great. It's because we have the best Nigerian minds and the best Chinese minds and the best Zimbabwean minds and the best Italian minds. It's because the best come to America. America is the world, but not its government, just its people. We are the world. America is the world. And what we could possibly be, that could be incredible. In my earlier segment, I suggested if I was president, I would flood the zone with $6 trillion of investments, and these are truly capital investments with no return for the ones that invested. You're just giving people essentially grant money. They only have to pay it back if they don't do what they're supposed to do. But what they're supposed to do is going to be very broadly defined as, or I don't know, whichever way it works. Maybe narrowly is better. If it's narrowly defined on a few very key points, such as however you come about it, but if you're building community, and community means you're developing the full panoply of a happy, healthy, successful community, then great. Then that's just the investment is the fruit is the less people we have that feel like there's no hope for them, the less people we have that will be willing to subvert who and what we are and destroy it from within. There's many people that are very happy about this shutdown just because it'll subvert us from within and destroy us. And you know why that is? It's because we have so many people. It's not because of the Chinese, not because of the Russians. It's only because of us. It's us. It's we humans. The degree to which we failed, especially the degree to which we failed because we ignored it and didn't really care. And I don't want to hold anybody morally responsible or in the here and now. It is what it is. But the degree to which we failed to act to clear out the dens of hopelessness that our own institutions, our own policies created and are continuing to create, that we wouldn't recognize. You know, I don't cotton to reparations. I don't cotton to a moral demand over me. I won't do it. What I recognize, though, is you have these communities that you may think that there's no reason they can't just pull themselves up by the bootstraps, but it's not true. You pull those communities, you give those communities the fruit to define what life looks like for them, and let them build what they built. Put it in the hands of the people that I don't care about their ideologies, I don't care about their religions, their whatever. I don't care. All I care about is, are they doers? Do they do? And when they do, are they consensually minded with the people that they interact with? Are they I guess you could say, are they leaders? Not bosses, are they leaders? If they're leaders, and they do, give them the money. They'll figure it out. Give them the money, give them the resources. They'll figure it out as long as they have that initial support. And the initial support is just the resources. And if you need some training in something, whatever, all that stuff, you do that. You do that. You get more Shugyang Zangs showing up in America. That's what we want. We want to continue to be the collection center for the best and brightest minds of the world, and to have a true American identity that is, it's just automatically assumed. What makes Americans Americans is because all Americans look different. That will be our unique calling card. That is our unique calling card. We just haven't been able to reach it. I think on that we're going to end this. I think I only covered one brief. Well, there you go. You know what? I'll just read the headlines on these. Oil prices closed below zero in unprecedented collapse. France 24. That's a pretty epic story. That's a pretty epic story in and of itself, but everybody's talking about this all up and down, all up both sides, and I don't even understand the math of it. I'm not an expert on this, so there it is. That's pretty stunning. I don't even know the ramifications of that, but prepping is a good thing right now, isn't it? Prep while you prep. Researchers achieve remote control of hormone release from Science Daily. Here's an excerpt. You know what? I'm not going to read the excerpt for this. Remote control of hormone release. So that's again. And again, here's the same old thing. Do I really want to be putting this in the hands of the Corpo State folks that will screen it and all that stuff that they'll do with it? No. This is a dangerous technology in that context. And again, the tool and the user, as I say and say again and again throughout the show. The tool itself is awesome, but when the user is exclusive and can use it as an advantage to gain even more power influence advantage over you, producing more cooperative rather than consensual relations, well then I'm not for it. Then free the tech. And then we have rising carbon dioxide levels will change marine habitats and fish communities. That's from Eureka Alert. That's, you know, the way that everything, even in tiny ways. You talk about the fine-tuned universe, and this is an argument for the existence of God, which I don't buy into anymore. I used to, but I don't really, because I could see what the fine-tuned universe is just an extrapolation of patterns, a meaning onto patterns. Patterns emerge. They almost always emerge. There's some degrees of patterns that emerge. The fine-tuned universe is not fine-tuned. It's where it's settled. And the settling looks like it was fine-tuned. But wherever it's settled, it would have looked like it was fine-tuned for that. Just having a universe that in which the way that it interrelates requires that it is unstable. Well, it seems to be as unstable as it seems to be. That just fractions of conditions could fundamentally undo the whole thing. That is not an evidence of design. That is an evidence of what emergent design tends to look like. An emergent design is basically the design that emerges from the parameters. That's been the overall theme of this show, really. Emergent design and all that. So that's the end of this segment. We're going to go to the last segment, and the last segment is the dialectical. This has been your 8 p.m. show. And now we're getting ready to do it on the Action Bots YouTube channel and get the 9 p.m. show, which is the dialectical. And the dialectical is the power advantage of landlord sex. And this is kind of relevant to what we were talking about here when I talk about how the tech that is contained gives the individuals that already have an advantage of power, even more advantages of power over you. And then you can create cooperative relationships. And cooperative relationships are not, I don't even like using the word. I want to talk about consensual relationships. Everybody tries for everyone to win. You can never be, I'll say, you can never always 100% be consensual. And you can never even be consensual in all interactions. But in general, that's where that's one of the core standards that you follow. Can't build your whole life about that one standard consensual, but it is one of the core standards that I think you would it would be in your advantage to do that. So if you can build that consensual standard then you want the other to win, and a cooperative standard is a polite way of being coercive. In essence, it is, I am not going to directly coerce upon you, but let's face it. Your options are limited. That's what it is. It's when one person has all the options to say no, and you have none. That's a cooperative relationship. And that's what we mostly have in America today. We mostly have, especially when it comes to our marketplace. Our marketplace is mostly cooperative based. It's not consensually based. It's not actually a free market. It's a cooperative market, and cooperative markets are coercive in that they allow for certain agents to have a significant power influence advantage over other individuals, diminishing their capacity to be full agents in the exchange. They have considerations which prevent them from even in many cases even knowing what it is that they would actually want if they truly had the power to say no, because they'll build these constructs that allow them some moral reason to feel like they're actually free when they're not. So capitalism is the vehicle, and capitalism offers the promise that maybe someday you too can lord it over others. All right, that's the end of this segment. Turn the light off in the room. There we go. Light off in the room. Now, when I say stuff like that, and I did a bold decision there, because that's a segment, so I left that segment out there. That's when I would be called a communist. By the way, if you're a capitalist, I got nothing against you. There are folks that have their particular understanding and version of capitalism that may not actually be capitalism, or probably isn't actually capitalism, but I like it better than the capitalism that actually is, such as I understand it. And the capitalism that actually is fundamentally it's cooperatively based. It's not consensually based. It's cooperatively based. Those that have the power to dictate to those that have not, and there's very little ability of those that have not in systems that increasingly become monopolized to have the option to say no. You can't say no realistically if, say, the type of work you do in your area, there's maybe 15 companies, but the 15 companies are all using the exact or very similar types of internal governance models, if you will, and maybe those governance models are intrusive. Maybe all of them require drug tests. Now, you don't have to work for them, but if you don't, then that means you're going to have to accept a diminished life. What are you going to do? You're going to die in that hill? You're going to take the drug test. That's coercion. Well, it is coercion. Cooperation really is just polite coercion. That's essentially, but it is worth noting the distinction, and that's what we're talking about. So that's a form of coercion to me. And I don't want to be religious about what is coercive or not coercive, and I don't live my life by. But that's another one of these core standards that I have within me. The general standard of non-coercion in general, but general. I have general standards, not religious texts that give me the exact parameters of when to use this and when to not that. But in general, coercion is one of those keys in balance with the other standards that I have. So, with that note, let's get to the last segment of the show, finally. I know you're all very upset that this is the last segment of the show, ladies and gentlemen, but there you have it. We're going to get to it. Here we go. All right, this is the Dialectical for Frico Talks the News on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. My name is Frico, and I am with Frico.com. Here's your Dialectical for today. The Dialectical is the power advantage of landlord sex. So there's been a not unexpected rise in landlord whoring as of late. Landlords whoring their houses for sexual favors. Literally. Will rent for sex. Whores. Plain and simple. I'm not talking about the people that did the sexual favors. I'm talking about the landlords. They're the whores. It seems the landlords, not all landlords, want to take advantage of the time of Coronavilles to proposition or answer to the proposition of a tenant for sexual favors in exchange for not paying the rent. Imagine that. These land whores have decided that, yes, I will accept this sex that you clearly don't want to have because I don't care about your feelings or your life, only your carnal usefulness. I am willing to go without money. But in order for me to go without money so that you could be a little bit more secure during Coronavilles, you know what? I would willingly dip into your salt and honey and cull it out of you and leave you feeling less than you are. I would do that. Cool. Let's go to the news excerpt and I missed the C in excerpt there. You suck. And then let's talk about cooperation, which we did earlier. We'll talk about it again. Excerpt from the Shade Room. Landlords are allegedly asking for sexual favors from tenants who can't pay rent during the pandemic. Allegedly. Reports of sexual harassment by landlords are reportedly climbing as more and more Americans are struggling to pay rent during the Coronavilles. During Coronavilles. Organizations in several states, including Hawaii and Illinois, reported seeing an increase in sexual harassment complaints in the month of April. We've received more cases at our office in the last 2 days than we have in the last 2 years. Cara Jabola Carolis. Now that is a cool name. That's a name that sings, doesn't it? Cara Jabola Carolis. Caro Jabola Corolas. I don't know if what accent. Is there a Hawaiian accent? I don't even know. Caro Jabola Corolas. I'm almost reading like it's Italian or something. Kind of could be. Kind of has that feel. Caro Jabola Corolas, the executive director of the Hawaiian State Commission on the Status of Women, told BuzzFeed News. And that's the end of that. That's the end of that excerpt. Now, I tell you, what matters is it. Between myself and others, what exchange goes between two consenting adults? This isn't sex worker shaming, by the way, but is it consensual? Or is it more like cooperative? So I believe there are fundamentally three types of exchanges between humans. There is the coercive, there's the consensual, and in between, the cooperative, with multiplicities of gradations between these types of exchanges. Consensual exchange is exchange in which agents of the exchange, in which the agent in the exchange has incentive to assure the other gets quality beyond what was promised. To put it another way, a consensual exchange is one in which all of the agents want all of the other agents to win. Coercive exchange is the use of deception, fraud, manipulation. This one is really difficult to pin down to a concrete definition. And force or threat of force to gain value exchange advantage. The devil is in the definitions, not the details, the definitions. Cooperative exchange is when one or more of the agents of the exchange have a significant advantage of power influence that tends to give the agents significant advantage in the negotiation of the exchange. What you see here is cooperative exchange. One set of humans have a significant power influence disadvantage in the exchange. The landlord is protected by the state should the tenant not be able to pay their rent, even during Coronavilles. A key, because eventually they send the sheriffs out. The sheriffs will go out with their guns and they will enforce they will protect the landlord's property, even though you live there. A key added element of power influence for the landlord in that the options for a tenant to relocate are even more significantly limited. There you go. There's another one of those cooperative, coercive powers there. Your circumstance of being, well, pretty desperate because you got nowhere else to go. It's not like you can just leave and find someplace cheaper. Nope. Not like you're going to be able to get any help from anyone. Not going to get any help from the government. You're not a corporation. But the tenant, unless they, during Coronavilles, fall into one of the protected properties, which should be extended to all renters, but don't let me get too far afield. They're going to have to go if they can't pay. Cooperative exchange is the best we can hope for in systems that do not fundamentally allow for the emergence of consensuality. And that's why a lot of America has been cooperative a lot more than most all the other nation states, except there's areas where some are better or worse, but on average, in fundamental ways, especially in terms of whatever you're born into, what you could become. In America, the cooperative level is far more liberating. And so by that model, we look at America and say we're free, and we're not free. We may be more free than a lot of other countries, relatively speaking, but we're still living in a land of cooperation. This is not the land of consensuality. It never has been from the start. Just so we're clear, if America's ever going to be consensual, it's going to have to take an evolutionary leap forward beyond what it was. Cooperative exchange is the best we can hope for in systems that do not fundamentally allow for the emergence of consensuality. The system we have in America creates great mountains of gold for prizes. Prizes the state will protect with guns. Those types of high stakes attract the best, most lethal among us to attempt to be one of the ones with the mountains of gold. And these killers don't play. And they shut doors behind them. You're talking about billions of dollars now. Now we're talking a company that may be worth $2 trillion. The first company worth $2 trillion. A company worth $2 trillion. This is a superpower. Amazon is a superpower. That when you have one individual that can achieve that level of command over capital. Capital is blood and bone. It is the exchange of blood and bone by one individual, because it moves mountains and it fundamentally alters lives when that individual decides to move. That's tyranny, by the way. That's awful tyranny. The fact that Bezos has $2 trillion at his command, that's not constitutional if you're really going to understand what he is. He is a state. In and of himself, he is a citadelian. He is a prime example of a citadelian. You have that level of power, you operate outside the parameters. The United States wants to arrest Bezos. Bezos can skip. They won't arrest him. They can't afford to. His company is too much part of his too vitally important to the infrastructure. Yeah, that's the world we live in. We've allowed that to happen. So I would say, if that's capitalism, that's tyranny. So capitalism is tyranny. Now you show me a different capitalism. I don't think you can, but that's tyranny. You want to allow for a system in which that happens, that's just evil. Subjectively speaking. Even within my Christian moral standards, that's evil. That's really evil in my Christian moral standards. Really, really evil. They create artificial scarcity in terms of resources, intellectual property, and positions of gravitas, the type of work that allows humans to develop and discover more fundamentally who they are without grinding them down physically to early death. See, this is, again, you start to understand that whole connectivity of all the stuff and how the emotions and the circumstances, and whether you have to struggle to eat right from the start, whether you grow up in a stable circumstance, an unstable circumstance, or are U.S. drones potentially going to kill your uncle? These things fundamentally alter you and diminish you right from the start, and only the most extraordinary can overcome some of these circumstances. You have to be extremely naturally equipped with self-direction and knowing in order for you to overcome what mediocre minds in an upper middle class world in America can build empires. Mediocre minds in the ghetto die an early death. That's the difference. So, this story to me illustrates the not so extreme example of how this type of imbalance of power influence that our current market state system facilitates ends up creating opportunities for landlord whores. I'd see Bezos is a landlord whore because he's getting his own form of diminished capacity that humans accept for what he's doing. Certainly Amazon employees are right now. Because these Amazon employees, they're not there voluntarily. Remember that. These are not volunteers. This is a conscription army, and you should fundamentally be against conscription armies. And that's what they are. They're an army that has been conscripted. That's the way you should view that. And he's done that. He didn't recognize right from the start. If capitalism is truly this magnanimous and wonderful, and Bezos is one of your biggest success stories, then why is it that the capitalists couldn't recognize early on, without a government needing to say anything, I need to take care of these people, I need to give them the option. If you don't want to stay, if you don't want to work because you don't want to risk it, I understand. I will offer more incentive to people to try to get people that might be willing to work. Like give them real, $2 an hour more? No, triple their pay. Do that, triple their pay. You're making bank. You can triple their pay. For triple their pay, I think a lot of people would be willing to show up. I'm actually more than willing to. Well, I couldn't physically do their work. Give me a desk job. Give me a desk job. So the bottom line is this. This is my last line of this, although I'll keep talking. Free. Free is not cooperation. Free is consent. Yeah. And that's, but you have consent as one of those standards. You have non-coercion as one of those standards. These aren't absolutes. These aren't religious terms. We're not looking to be inquisitionists trying to get everyone in every little minor infraction of what might, and have infinite debates on whether this applies or that applies, because there's other areas involved as well. And the fundamental principle is to be able to stand on your own understanding and to be able to say no. That's what you should be building towards. If you that is a key part of the other two. Then you can serve the imbalance. Because if you have the power to say no, you can also afford to have a lot more grace with people. You don't sweat things as much. You're not existentially threatened nearly as much when you have the power to say no. So anyway, that'll be the end of this segment. That's the end of the shows here on the YouTube Action Bots channel. This is the last segment for that. The 9 o'clock show. Tomorrow we will join you again at 4 p.m. for the first segment and try to catch the live show. You can watch the live show. It starts, assuming we don't have a technical glitch like we did today, it starts at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is available on dlive.tv/Freako, Freeqo. Oh, I have done it. I did it. I did it. Self-congratulations. Yay. Self-congratulations. I did it. And there he is. That's very fitting. Very fitting. That's how we're going to end the show with old dude. That's why I put him there. Old Donald Sutherland. Just a constant reminder. This is everybody imagines now that they are the pod people, and they're sussing out the non-pods and whatever you want, what categories you want to put in them. The thing is that I guess because of me, everybody is potting on me because, well, not everybody. There are people that pot them that have an adverse reaction to me for other reasons than this, but there's been a fair number of this, a huge number of this. It's because fundamentally, a lot of times when people talk to me, they come to talk to me because I express something that they agree with, whether it's the left or the right kind of thing. And then as they get to talk to me, they find out that I have beliefs that are fundamentally opposed to what the left assumes, and I have beliefs that are fundamentally opposed to what the right assumes. And I guess I have a lot of beliefs that are fundamentally opposed to a lot of people, but also in agreement with a lot of groups. I have a lot of overlap with the right, plenty of overlap with the left. I don't view anyone as individuals, even though I feel sometimes they are, and I act in that way sometimes, and I don't know whether I'll ever overcome that right now. I don't know. But I know intellectually, at least, not always emotionally, but I know intellectually that people are not evil for the thoughts that they have. They're only evil for the actions that they take. And and for me, well, expressing an idea is an action in of itself, but I say direct actions that directly harm others. That's the only thing I'm really interested in as far as putting people in some category where I'm going to deem them as untrustworthy or quote unquote evil, but not for their ideas alone. Now, I stay away from racists in general, not because I feel like you're more evil being a racist versus being a bigot, a religious bigot, or you're certainly not worse than a rapist or a pedophile. You're not as bad as them. So in the hierarchy, I don't know where you put racist. It's not necessarily at the top of my list, near the top though, but it is one of those categories that the very nature, the degree, especially the degree to which racism is a part of their identity. The more that is a part of their identity, the less you can't trust those folk. You can't trust people who are fundamental if they're driven by race. We all have our heuristic institutions and assumptions and whatevers that kind of make us view individuals in terms that have to do with their race and not their individuality. But there are people that are ideationally racist, and it's a big part of their life. And those people, that's the type of belief system that immediately, right from the start, it's not there's no even steps to it. It's not solved. They're immediately creating angels and demons. Anybody that creates angels and demons in their narratives are fundamentally, to me, untrustworthy. I don't trust people in general that do the angels and demons thing. And the more you do it, the more people are on your prescription list, so to speak. We all have some degrees of angels and demons, but there's a certain level where, for me, if you're putting too many people on your list of people that you're allowed to treat like subhuman, then I'm done with you. I'm not saying that you're evil. I'm saying that I don't trust you. And that's why, for me, racists are people that you would, and again, there are people who are, I guess you could say that racism is not a fundamental driver in their life. I could deal with people that have racist thoughts and tendencies. I can deal with them. I can deal with people that have all kinds of generally bad thoughts and tendencies that if it rises to a level where I think that these people are going to really act on the thoughts that are in their head, then I stay away from them, because then they're dangerous. And there's no racist. There's no racist that eventually won't turn on you, even if you are whatever particular whether they hate black people or whoever they hate. If you're a white person and you hate black people, there's no, leave them racists in a room long enough, and they'll find a reason to distinguish the racial purity amongst each other, and to destroy each other. So they're not good. They're not good allies. They're not good friends. They're very unreliable. So I don't morally judge them. I don't morally judge people in general, unless you're a Christian. And Christians, I believe I have some degree of license to afford some moral judgment upon you, and you upon me. Not in a condemning like I condemn you to hell, but in a discerning kind of way. I would hold a Christian accountable if I was in fellowship with them by Christian moral standards. Those are the only ones, and nobody else would I do that. The standard that I would hold people to is generally, and I'm not holding them to it, I'm just saying the people that I'll associate with are generally the people who will demonstrate more consensuality and also less certainty. The less certain you are, the better in general, but I guess you get to a point where you're so uncertain, you're ridiculous. You don't stand on anything and can't form anything around you. That's own level of mistrust. So somewhere between that and rigid certainitarianism. Again, certainitarianism is one of those things that cultivates and facilitates and depends on and also enables that type of angels and demons thinking. If I could change anything in the world, I could magically transfer to every human being on the planet the danger of the angels and demons narrative. Now, maybe if I did, everybody would be like, yeah, we get it. We get what you think. But no, we still don't agree with you. You're an idiot. So that could happen. But that's what I think. So with that, I think I'll end the show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I will see you all tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to like, share, comment, whatever crap you're supposed to do. And follow us on dlive.tv Freako and watch the live show. Get to enjoy. In this case, this is a 3-hour show almost, thereabouts. Oh, no, it's not. 2 hours, 40 some odd minutes show. So a little bit longer than usual. And I kind of thought it would be on a day like today. But I made it through. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. And for everybody else out there struggling, even if you put it upon yourself or whether you did or didn't, whatever the circumstance is, man, just remember it's stop or go, and you can find right here and right now, you can find all kinds of happinesses and joys. Even in the midst of war, people find joy, and you can do it. And this is a temporary place that we're in. We will all get our sanity back in the end. We will all come back together again. A lot of the broken relationships we have will heal and will come back. We will get to the other side, and there will be wonderful things waiting for us.